Actually, in last class we talked about the lymphatic system, right?
Yes.
And you know that lymphatic system is responsible for immunity. Yes. So, what is immunity?
Helps fight off bacteria.
Yes, the ability of your body to fight against or fight the microorganisms, right? That try to invade into your body and cause harm to your body. So that is immunity. So two types of immunity are present in the body. One is called innate. So immunity, there are two types of immunity. One is called the innate immunity, and another is called the acquired or adaptive. Adaptive, also called acquired immunity. Okay? So innate, everybody gets by birth. When we born, by birth, we get the innate immunity. For example, skin. Everybody has a skin, right? And skin protects your body. You know that microorganisms, are stopped by your skin. So skin is a part of which one? Innate. Make sense? So we get by birth. But adaptive or acquired immunity, we acquire once we get exposed to, your body gets any microorganism or antigen. Make sense? Your body develops it. After your body gets exposed to microorganism. So this one we get after birth due to antigen. Antigen, like any bacteria or virus, when it enters into your body, in response to that, your body produces it, right? So, now you tell me. So, now you tell me which one is specific, which one is non-specific. Your skin, is it specific or it will stop everything, try to stop everything? It will try to stop everything, right? So, skin is non-specific. And adaptive immunity is highly specific, because I told you, once your body gets certain, microorganism, against that specific antigen your body produces. Like if you get swine flu, your body will produce immunity against that specific flu. Make sense? If you get coronavirus or not, your body will specifically produce immunity against that coronavirus. Is it clear? So this one is highly specific and this one is generalized, like it will try to stop everything. So this is non-specific, and this is highly specific. Okay? Now, the innate immunity gives two types of defenses. One is called first line defense, and another is called second line of defense. Okay? And adaptive immunity gives third line defense. Now, first line of defense includes your skin and the lining of your respiratory tract and GI tract. So those are first line of defense. Skin, I said what? Skin, mucous membrane or lining of, let me say lining of respiratory and GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. So those give the first line of defense. Okay? Why? So just think that if any microorganism tries to invade, enter into your body, who will try to stop it first? Skin, right? If it tries to enter through the respiratory tract, right? Inner lining of the respiratory tract, right? Inner lining of nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, right? Will try to stop that. If it try to enter through the food, your GI tract, then inner lining, right? The innermost layer of GI tract will try to stop it. So those are first line of defense. Make sense? And we get all those by birth. Second line of defense. Now think that if somehow that microorganism managed to enter into your body through the skin, for example, it has penetrated, right? First through the skin and has entered into your tissue, your muscle. Then second line of defense will come forward to fight. Make sense? If first line fails, then second line will what? Make sense? It's like, battlefield. Have you seen the movie, the old movies like in battlefield, first line, soldiers, second line, right? Third line. If first line is destroyed, then second line fights, right? So if the antigen can get into the body, through the first line of defense, then the second line of defense will work. Second line of defense, now we can take in the tissue. Tissue macrophages. Macrophages. Phagocytic cells in the tissue are macrophages. You know that, right? Phagocytosis and down. In your tissue, you have macrophages. Tissue proteins. Your tissue releases certain proteins, and those proteins also destroy the microorganisms. So tissue macrophages are phagocytic cells, and tissue proteins are the proteins released from the tissue. Now, important proteins are, one is called interferons, another is called complements. Okay? Those are the proteins that fight against the microorganisms. Okay? Then fever. This is actually, fever is good, and fever helps you to fight against the microorganisms. Once the microorganism enters into the body, then fever occurs to fight against the microorganisms. Fever is actually due to release of certain chemicals like prostaglandin from the tissue. So that is another. And inflammation. Also due to release of histamine, right? Bradykinin, those chemicals are released from the tissue, and that causes inflammation. That release causes inflammation. So you see that all these are released from what? Tissue. Make sense? Interferons, tissue proteins, complements, tissue proteins, fever due to prostaglandin, tissue, releases prostaglandin, that chemical, inflammation mainly due to histamine released from the tissue, you know that, right? So the chemicals released from the tissue, those are second line of defense, as well as what kind of cells? Phagocytic cells, macrophages, right? In the tissue. So those belong to the second line of defense. And the third line of defense includes T and B lymphocytes. T and B lymphocytes provide third line of defense and highly specific. Okay, so third line of defense is highly what? Specific. So those are three lines of defense present in your body to fight against the microorganisms or antigens. Now, let me quickly talk a little bit more about interferons and complements. Interferons are called signal proteins released by the viral infected cells. So these are the cells of your body, okay? And these cells got infected by virus. Viral infected cells. Okay? And these are healthy cells, not yet infected by virus. Okay? So these are healthy cells. Now you see what happens. The viral infected cells release the chemical signal proteins, those are called interferons, to alert these healthy cells that virus are present around you. So be careful, okay? Be alert. So interferons are secreted by what? Viral infected cells, right? Infected cells. And interferons alert the healthy cells. So healthy cell membrane will be stronger, okay? Will not let the virus, penetrate or enter into them. And also interferon stops replication of virus. You know how virus replicates. Virus enters into the cell and then cell bursts into many tiny pieces. And one cell releases so many, viruses. So that replication is stopped by the interferons. Interferons in shortcut we say IFMS, interferons. Okay? Complements. Complements are mainly produced in the liver. So your liver produces complements, okay, produced in the liver, okay, and complements are also protein molecules, okay, and complements enter into the body fluid and plasma. So plasma of your blood and in the body fluid. So produced mainly in the liver and released into the plasma and in the body fluid. And complements, remember, get activated by antigen antibody complex. So what is that? You know, this is an antibody. Usually antibodies are Y-shaped. So antibody, and this is an antigen. For example, bacteria or virus. Okay, so this is antigen. Antibodies bind with the antigen. So this is the antigen antibody complex. Sometimes, you know, we see multiple antibodies are attached to one antigen. So this is the antigen antibody complex. Okay, and this complex activates the complements. Okay, and the activated complements will do what? Will destroy the antigens in three ways. One is, so complements will work in different ways. One is lysis. Lysis means what? Burst, breakdown, lysis, right? You know, that cell lysis. Have you heard that? We talked about that a lot, right? Lysis of red blood cell, breakdown of red blood cell. So, the bacterial lysis or breakdown of the membrane, cell membrane of the, or cell wall of the bacteria. Makes sense? So, that complement, activated complement will do what? Will cause the lysis of the bacteria, breakdown of the bacterial cell membrane. Is it clear? The number one. Another way, complements increase phagocytosis. So by increasing phagocytosis. So phagocytic cells, for example macrophages, right, will be activated by the complement. So that will increase phagocytosis. Make sense? Okay. And number three, by increasing inflammation. Will cause more inflammation. Remember, more inflammation means when you get an inflammation, for example, you got inflammation here, okay? That means what? Why that area is red? More blood flows there. Vasodilation occurs, right? Histamine, that causes vasodilation. So more blood flows, right? That's why that area gets red, okay? More blood is going to that area means what? More white blood cells are going there, right? More white blood cells are going to that area means what? White blood cells do what? You already know. White blood cells are responsible for immunity, right? They either do phagocytosis or produce antibodies. Just know that white blood cells fight against the microorganisms. You already know that, right? Red blood cells to transport oxygen. White blood cells to fight, right? Give immunity. We talked about that a lot. Okay, so more blood flow to that area means more mobilization of white blood cells. Is it clear? And more white blood cells means they will be able to fight better more against the microorganisms. So, the complements help to fight against the microorganisms or antigens by causing lysis or destruction of the bacteria, increasing phagocytic cell activity, and increasing inflammation. Is it clear? Make sense? Okay. So those are two important chemicals provide immunity in your body. Okay. And when the interferons are released from the viral infected cells in your body, you feel like, increased temperature, fever, you feel like flu-like symptoms. Flu-like symptoms, those are actually giving you alerting you, okay, that your body is getting microorganisms and releasing interferons. Interferons are causing those things, okay. Anyway, so that's how we classify the immunity, okay. Now, so let me go back again. Immunity, how many types?
3.
First 2 types. One is called what? Innate. Another is called adaptive, which is also called acquired. Okay? Now, which one gives first and second lines of defense?
Innate.
Innate. And which one gives the third line of defense? This one. Which one is non-specific, like more generalized? This one, right? And this one is highly specific, because it will be only developed or produced in your body once you get that specific type of antigen. Okay, good. Now, adaptive immunity, I already mentioned, is given by 2 types of cells. T cell mediated or T lymphocyte, what? B cell mediated or B lymphocyte mediated, right? I told you those are 2 types of cells give third line of defense. Now, T cell mediated immunity is also called cellular, and B cell mediated immunity is also called humoral. Why? In last class I mentioned that T cells and B cells fight differently. Remember that? They learn to fight differently. So T cells get close to the antigen, right? And will do phagocytosis. So cell itself directly, right? Fights. That's why it is called cellular. And B cells produce and secrete antibodies, right? Remember, antibodies will go to the antigen and will fight. Is it clear? So, the word humoral. Do you remember inside your eye you have fluid, aqueous and vitreous humor? The word humor means fluid. Humor means what? Fluid. So humoral means fluidity, and antibodies, secretion, right? So fluid, it's liquid. So that's why, since B cells release antibodies, they don't directly fight, okay, by releasing antibodies. That's why it is called humoral, fluidity. Okay, now humoral immunity could be 2 types. Active and passive. So active humoral and passive humoral. Okay. The difference is, in case of active, your body produces antibodies in response to antigen. I am repeating again. Your body produces antibody in response to what? Antigen. Like if a bacteria or virus, right, enters into your body will produce antibody. That's why it is called active. Make sense? Passive is your body is getting antibody, not antigen. Your body is getting antibody from outside. It is not producing. Your body is not producing antibody. It is getting antibody from outside. Make sense? Okay. So now you tell me, a baby gets antibodies from mother's milk. Baby gets antibodies from what? Mother's milk. So is that active or passive?
Passive.
Passive. Because baby's body is not producing, right? Antibody. It is getting directly from mother's body. Is it clear? So that is passive. Now you tell me, you got flu virus. Now your body has produced antibody against it.
Active.
That is what? Active or passive?
Active.
Is it clear? So, more easy way is, in case of active, who enters into the body? Antigen, right? And your body produces antibody against it. And in case of passive, who enters into the body? Antibody. Is it clear? Okay. Now you tell me, you got vaccine. You already know vaccine is highly attenuated antigen, like bacteria or virus. But we make them what? Very weak, close to death. Okay? We make the vaccine from what? The antigens, bacteria or virus. Okay? But we almost kill them. Make highly attenuated, inactive. So they, when you inject them, your body produces antibody against them. Is it clear? But why we make them highly weak, close to dead? Because they will not be able to harm you. Make sense? But they will be able to do what? Trigger the production of antibodies in your body. So they should be able to produce antibodies in your body. Your body should be able to produce antibodies in response to them, but they will not be able to harm or multiply inside the body. Is it clear? Okay, so now you tell me, vaccine, you got vaccine, okay? Your body produces antibody. Is that active or passive? Active. Is it clear? Okay. So I gave you two examples of active. One is your body got bacteria or virus naturally, right? From nature. And another is vaccine, right? Which one is natural? Which one is artificial? Vaccine is artificial. And from the air, right? You got flu. That is what? Natural. Make sense? So, active, natural, and what? Artificial. Okay. Natural includes microorganisms from the nature, and artificial is what? Vaccine. In both cases, your body is producing antibody against the antigens. Now, passive. Baby gets antibodies from mother's milk. So that is natural or artificial? What do you think? Natural. That is natural, right? So, passive, natural. Baby gets milk, mother's milk. Okay, mother's milk. Antibodies from mother's milk. That is natural. Now you tell me, someone got AIDS. Okay? AIDS destroy the immune system. AIDS virus attack the immune system and destroy the immune system. Okay? You remember T cell, B cell, different types of T lymphocytes, right? So, AIDS virus mainly attack the helper T cells. One type of T cell I explained in last class. Cytotoxic T cell, helper T cell, right? Suppressor T cell. Remember that? So, AIDS virus attack the T cells and destroy them. Okay, now someone's immune system has been destroyed by AIDS, okay? That person is getting infections because immune system is not working, right? So you get antibodies because that person's body cannot produce antibody, immune system is not working. So in that case, you will do what? You will collect antibodies from other person or other sources and inject antibodies directly into that patient's body. Make sense? Because patient's body cannot produce antibodies. Very simple. So that is also the person is getting antibody from outside. So I gave you two examples. One is baby is getting antibodies from mother's what? Milk. So that is natural, right? Now AIDS patient whose body cannot produce antibodies, getting antibodies from outside. So that is also passive, right? But what kind of passive is that? Artificial, because you are making antibodies, right? And then injecting into the body. So that is an example of passive artificial. So both active and passive could be natural and artificial. Okay. Like antibodies into the AIDS patient. So that's how we classify the whole immunity. Okay. Okay. We already talked about this. Lymphocytes are produced in the bone marrow, and those young lymphocytes enter into the thymus or stay in the bone marrow and get their trainings. Once the lymphocytes get matured inside the thymus and come out, those are T lymphocytes, and those get matured in the bone marrow and come out, those become what? B lymphocytes, right? T thymus, B bone marrow. And then they enter into the lymphatic system. You remember lymphatic system, right? What are the organs of the lymphatic system? Lymph nodes, many, right? And large organs are tonsils, thymus, spleen. Remember that? So those T and B lymphocytes will be housed inside those organs. Make sense? So those organs are heavily filled with T and B lymphocytes. Is it clear? Those organs are heavily packed or filled with the lymphocytes, trained lymphocytes, mature lymphocytes, right? So, you see, they enter into the lymphatic system, okay? And you also remember, inside those organs, you have the follicles I showed you. Those are heavily filled with the lymphocytes, okay? Follicles. We talked about this. We talked about this, right? Active, natural, artificial, passive, natural, artificial. Now, antibodies. Antibodies are immunoglobulins. How many of you remember plasma proteins? Albumins, globulins, fibrinogens, right? Remember the plasma proteins? Okay, so globulins, at that time I told you, globulins are responsible for what? Immunity. So globulins, you already know that. Globulins are responsible for immunity. What kind of globulins? Immunoglobulins. Makes sense, right? Globulins that give immunity. Those are immunoglobulins, right? And immunoglobulins are also called gamma globulins. Okay. gamma globulins. Now, you remember in last class I told you that B lymphocytes, one type of B lymphocytes are called plasma cells. If you see last lectures, note plasma cells. Another memory B cell, right? Memory B cells. So plasma cells produce what? Plenty of antibodies. That's what I wrote in last class. Antibodies. Okay? So plasma cells produce plenty of gamma globulins. Okay? Those are antibodies. Gamma globulins are antibodies. Now, if you see the structure of an antibody, how many of you remember when I was talking about the complements, I showed you antigen-antibody complex? Remember that? Okay. What was the shape of antibody? Y. Remember that? Y-shaped. Okay. So, antibodies are usually Y-shaped. Okay. And each antibody, if you see the structure, has 4 chains. So this is an antibody, right? It looks like a Y. How many chains it has? 4 chains, right? These 2 are bigger, right? And these 2 are what? Smaller. So these 2 are called heavy chains and these 2 are called light chains. Makes sense, right? So 2 heavy chains and 2 are light chains. And at different locations, you have the connections. Those chains are connected. Here. Now, what is important here, you see that each chain has 2 portions shown by 2 different colors. So each chain, like see this one, has 2 portions or parts. This one also has 2 parts, okay? This part is called the variable part and this part is called the constant part. Make sense? So one part is what? Variable. Another part is constant. So constant part is what? Fixed part. Constant, right? And variable part changes. Does it make sense? Okay. So like this is an antibody. Okay. So it has 2 parts, right? Each chain has 2 parts. And this part, for example, is fixed and this part is variable part, right? So this part can be easily changed. Make sense? Because it is variable. I can change this part. You know the tools you use in your car. Right? Shaft part only one piece, you don't get many, right? And the top part you get many different sizes, right? So the fixed part is there, but you know the antibodies can change which part? The variable part. And by changing the variable part, it can bind with different types of antigens. Make sense? To form antigen-antibody complex, which is essential to kill the microorganisms. Okay, antigen-antibody complex. So now you see, if, for example, your body got one type of virus, then this one will perfectly fit to that virus, to that antigen. Make sense? Now you got another type of virus, this will not work. Because different viruses have different shapes, right? So this one will not fit perfectly. So the fixed part will remain there and the variable part will be changed, right? Now this one will perfectly fit to the new virus. Make sense? So that is efficient. Make sense? Okay. So I showed you that like this is the variable part and this portion is the fixed part. Okay. This is variable part and this is fixed part. What happens? The variable part gets attached to the antigens, okay, and form the antigen antibody complex. When I showed you before, like this is a bacteria, which is an antigen. Now, this bacteria has harmful sites, like this part is harmful, this part is harmful, this part is harmful. When you fight with someone, right, which parts of the body of your enemy are harmful? What do you think? Hands, right? Very good. And? Yeah, they can kick you, right? Punch you. So those are the harmful, or bite you, right? So those are main harmful sites. Okay? So if you can block them or tie them, then you are safe, right? That person will not be able to harm you. So bacteria or antigen or virus, they have what? Harmful areas or sites in the body. So these are the harmful sites of this antigen. So what the antibody will do here, you see, this is an antibody. Makes sense? So this is antibody Y-shaped, right? It will block the harmful site of the antigen. This is another antibody. It will do what? Block the harmful site. Mask or cover the harmful site. Make sense? Another antibody. So this is antigen antibody complex, whole thing antigen antibody complex, right? And this is one way how the antigens are neutralized by the antibodies. So, but one thing here, remember this picture, if you want to be more specific, I should draw this way, because we know that these are the sites that bind with the antigens, right? Variable parts. So this is correct and should be more, like this. So these are the binding sites, okay? Like this, okay? So variable part is here, okay? So that's how the antibody binds with the antigens. Three main ways antibodies fight against the antigens. One is called neutralization, that I showed you here. This is called neutralization. The harmful sites are blocked by the antibodies, or masked by the antibodies. Agglutination is another way. When you did the blood typing, you remember you mixed the serum in 3 drops of blood, right? And the serum contains antibodies, and red blood cell surface contains antigen. So agglutination is the clump or clot that was formed when you did the lab. So that is another way by forming clamp or clamping. Another is precipitation. When many antibodies bind with the antigens, what happens? You see, this is another antigen. This is the harmful site. So this antibody. This is another harmful site. So this is another antibody, right? So when many of them join together, the whole structure, antigen-antibody complex, right, will not be able to move. The movement will be what? Limited because of the weight. Because many antigens and antibodies are tied together. Make sense? Like if I tie many of you together, right, you won't be able to go and harm. Make sense? So I don't want to do that. So that's how we can do that, right? Tie them, many enemies together. So when the antibodies do that, the whole structure gets what? The movement gets limited. It will not be able to go and harm other cells. Okay? So precipitation will stay in one location. So those are the ways antibodies mainly work. But antigen-antibody complex that I explained before, that